Imagine holding a document that basically tells you, mathematically, that if you harbor even a single doubt about its leader, you have just guaranteed your own total failure.
Right. Just total failure right out of the gate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, welcome to today's deep dive, because we have custom tailored this one to unpack exactly that kind of extreme logic for you.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to process.
Oh, for sure. You are looking at a highly charged, just intensely polarizing motivational manifesto today. And it's centered entirely around this philosophy called victory with Ash.
Which is fascinating, really, because, humans have spent millennia trying to codify success, right?
Yeah.
Through philosophy, psychology, constantly wrestling with the messy variables of human nature.
Yeah, all the nuance.
Exactly, the nuance. But this specific text, it completely abandons that nuance. It breaks human behavior down into this uncompromising biological and, honestly, almost mathematical formula.
It really does. It's like absolute certainty is the only currency that matters to them.
Spot on. There's no room for maybe.
Right. So the mission of this deep dive is to deconstruct those exact step-by-step mechanics that the document lays out. You're going to see how it claims your internal mindset dictates your physical reality with literally zero margin for error.
And we're going to decode the really intense movement driving it, too.
Right. Because if you manage a team or, if you're just trying to optimize your own daily output, the mechanics described here, they push the boundaries of intentionality to their absolute limit.
They really do. And setting the foundation for this worldview, well, it requires looking at what the author calls the mindset to action to result game.
The mindset to action to result game.
Right, yeah. And the crucial thing here is the text does not treat mindset as some fleeting mood or a temporary emotional state,
Like waking up feeling unmotivated isn't really a factor for them.
Exactly. Waking up tired is irrelevant in this equation. Mindset is presented as our rigid structural progression. It's the initial command line that determines literally every subsequent physical event.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before touching the identity of this Ash figure, you really have to grasp that foundational engine first.
For sure. You need the mechanics.
Right. So the author contrasts two highly specific internal monologues to illustrate this game. On the positive side, the winning mindset runs on these active, forward-looking statements.
The exact thoughts they list are pretty striking.
Yeah. They are, quote, I will do it, I will learn no matter what, and this is my chance.
Which, psychologically speaking, those phrases represent a complete internalization of your locus of control.
Locus of control, right?
Yeah, so the individual is claiming total ownership over the outcome. But the losing mindset, on the other hand, counters with phrases that systematically surrender that control.
Like, I can't do it.
Right, I can't do it, I will fail. And, crucially, this is the big one, it's not my fault.
Man, that inclusion of it's not my fault in the negative column, it changes the entire complexion of the argument, doesn't it?
It completely shifts the paradigm.
Because it frames negativity not just as, like, pessimism or being sad. It frames it as an active evasion of responsibility.
Yes, exactly.
It's a computer, right? You're basically coding a system shut down into your own operating system by externalizing the blame.
That's a great analogy. The hardware just shuts down.
Right. It isn't just a lack of confidence. It is a defensive strategy designed to protect your ego from the sting of falling short.
And externalizing power is the primary catalyst for failure in this whole framework. When a person adopts that defensive stance, they are signaling to their own cognitive architecture that the outcome is beyond their control.
Which means they just stop trying.
Exactly. It logically necessitates the next phase outlined in the text, which is a complete cessation of meaningful action. There's just no middle ground offer here.
It's totally binary.
Totally binary. You either run the positive program leading to consistent effort and ultimately, quote, success/victory, or you run the negative program leading to no action, no growth, and guaranteed failure.
Which, think about how that plays out for you, the listener, right? When you are handed a massive, seemingly impossible project at work, if your first internal response is, I can't do it, or, if this fails, it's management's fault.
You're not just blowing off steam.
Right. Under this document's rules, you aren't just venting. You are making a structural decision that predetermines the final result before you even open your laptop.
The text insists that these silent, private thoughts are the actual primary drivers of physical reality.
And then they take it a step further, right? Because they don't just stay in the realm of psychology. They claim the biological high ground next.
Yeah, that's the author's next rhetorical move to cement the idea. The text pivots directly from philosophical accountability right into claims about human neurology.
Specifically, neuroplasticity.
Exactly. It cites neuroplasticity as the exact mechanism behind this binary system. It asserts that when you engage the positive mindset, when you think, I will do it, neuroplasticity is instantly activated in your brain.
Like instantly. The text describes the brain suddenly readying itself to learn new skills, accompanied by a huge spike in confidence.
Right.
And conversely, it states that the negative mindset increases fear and doubt, decreases physical action, and basically causes you to, quote, fail before you even try.
Which is a very powerful image.
It is, but I have to say, my analytical alarms are ringing a bit on the immediacy of that claim. Wait, does simply saying I will do it physically activate neuroplasticity right that second?
Yeah, this raises an important question.
Right, because asserting that simply saying a phrase instantly rewires you physically, it feels like treating a really complex, long-term biological process like a magic spell.
Yeah, I mean, the literal wording plays fast and loose with the biological timeline. True neuroplasticity, which is the physical creation of new neural pathways that requires sustained repetition and environmental feedback over a long period of time.
It's not a light switch.
No, definitely not. But if you look at the underlying mechanism the author is pointing toward, it reveals they're basically using neuroplasticity as a shorthand for cognitive readiness.
Ah, okay. Cognitive readiness. So it's less about physically growing new brain cells in a millisecond and more about dropping your psychological defenses.
Spot on. By adopting the positive framework, you prime your nervous system for engagement.
You shift your brain out of a defensive posture so it can actually, absorb information and spot opportunities.
Exactly. And the text brilliantly captures the paralyzing nature of cognitive friction here.
Cognitive friction.
Yeah. When the internal monologue shifts to I will fail, it weaponizes the amygdala's threat response system. The perceived threat of failure generates just an immense amount of cognitive friction.
Wow. So your brain is literally fighting itself.
Yes, the biological system initiates a retreat, shutting down the willingness to try. The failure literally happens before the physical attempt because the brain has already decided survival depends on avoiding the task entirely.
That makes a lot of sense. The friction is the failure. You're essentially fighting your own neurology at that point.
Right.
But, okay, if cognitive readiness removes that friction, does that mean sheer physical action is the ultimate solution? Like, if you just force your body to go through the motions, will you eventually brute force a victory?
You would think so, based on typical self-help stuff.
Right. But the document introduces a massive contradiction to that idea in what it calls the game changer table.
Ah, yes, the game changer table. This section completely obliterates the fake it till you make it philosophy that is just so common in modern self-help.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The text provides this formula stating, quote, same opportunity plus different mindset equals different life.
And then it lays out this real difference table to illustrate it. And the second row of that table, it breaks every assumption we have about the value of hard work.
It really does, because row one is predictable, right? You think I can do it, you take action, and the result is victory. Makes sense.
Classic formula.
But row two is the paradox. You think I can't do it, but the action column remains identical. You still take action, but the result listed, failure.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the explicit argument here is that action alone is entirely insufficient.
Even if you are putting in the work.
Right. Rote execution is mathematically guaranteed to fail if the underlying intention is compromised.
It's like imagine sitting in a sports car with the emergency handbrake ripped all the way up. You press the gas pedal to the floor. That is you taking physical action.
Okay, yeah.
But your negative mindset is that locked handbrake.
Mm-hmm.
You don't move an inch forward. The engine simply revs and revs until it destroys itself from the inside out.
That's a perfect way to visualize it. The action itself becomes actively destructive because the mindset guarantees the failure.
Exactly.
And redefining effective action this way places intention as the actual fuel, not the physical movement. Clocking in and going through the motions at your desk is worse than useless without the foundational belief.
So a negative intention actively corrupts the process from the inside out, even while the physical labor is being performed.
Yes. The belief is the strict prerequisite for the action to yield anything other than zero.
Wow. Let's apply that to a real-world scenario for you listening. Say your company rolls out a new software system that you secretly think is a terrible idea.
We've all been there.
Right. But you still do the work. You attend the training seminars, you migrate your files, you click the buttons. The text argues that because your internal command line is "this will fail," your action is poisoned.
You'll subconsciously sabotage the execution.
Right. You'll miss critical details, complain to coworkers, or simply lack the creative problem-solving required to navigate the inevitable bugs.
Malicious compliance or quiet quitting are perfect modern equivalents of this phenomenon. You are physically present, taking action, but the negative intention mathematically guarantees the project's failure from your end.
It demands total internal alignment.
Absolute total alignment.
And that demand for absolute internal alignment, it acts as the perfect Trojan horse for the final, most uncompromising section of this manifesto.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, because this hyper-specific flavor of intention-driven action brings us directly to the architect of the philosophy, introducing the victory with Ash movement.
And the transition in the document is jarring, to say the least. It moves from a rigid but recognizable framework of cognitive mindsets into this highly dogmatic, singular focus on a specific entity.
Yeah, it introduces the ultimate equation, quote, dream plus zeal plus massive action equals victory.
Zeal is such an intense word to use there.
It really is, and the final punchline lands with absolute finality. Quote, winning people think different, so they act different, so they live different.
And then it escalates the stakes to their absolute peak. It claims that whatever intentions you hold will manifest exactly 100% of the time.
Not 99%.
100%.
And this specific percentage is where the text splits its audience into two heavily polarized camps, using the entity of Ash as the ultimate litmus test for psychological validity.
Right. The text basically demands that the reader project all of their understanding of the positive mindset directly onto Ash.
So in the positive camp, you are instructed to think, quote, Ash will do good for us. With Ash, I will win. Ash will go down in history as warriors who make dreams come true.
It's intense.
Super intense. You are either a warrior making dreams come true alongside this entity, or you... So what does this all mean? The ultimate warning in the text drops right after that. It says, quote, if you think zero, you are making yourself zero. You will regret it in the end.
Regret it in the end.
Yeah. It is basically a thought-terminating cliche built right into the core architecture of the philosophy.
Absolutely.
If you question the leader or the movement, you aren't just being analytical. You are actively destroying your own potential. You're driving with the handbrake on. You are making yourself zero.
And the rhetoric functions as a completely self-sealing psychological mechanism. It effectively traps the follower in an echo chamber of their own biological fears.
How so? Like because they're afraid of failing.
Exactly. Because if a follower succeeds, it validates the victory with Ash philosophy. But if they doubt the philosophy and fail, well, the philosophy predicted that too, because the doubt was the negative intention that corrupted their action.
Oh, wow. So the movement is entirely insulated from any external criticism.
Completely insulated.
You can see how this loops back and weaponizes everything we discussed earlier about the amygdala and cognitive friction.
Right.
The text uses the very real fear of failure to force total compliance. It tells you that even a whisper of doubt will trigger that biological shutdown, meaning you must aggressively purge any critical thoughts about Ash just to survive.
And the massive action mentioned in their formula, it's only considered valid if it is fueled by unquestioning, burning zeal for Ash.
Right, so the source presents a rigid choice regarding how you fuel your daily actions, leaving absolutely no room for neutrality or analytical distance.
The entire document is a funnel. It's designed to capture universal desires for success and direct them into singular loyalty.
That is wild. Okay, so to synthesize this journey for you, we started with the structural mechanics of positive versus negative command lines in the brain.
Yeah.
We unpacked the biological shorthand of cognitive readiness, deconstructed the paradox that physical action with a bad mindset mathematically guarantees failure, and finally stepped into the intense binary trap of the victory with Ash movement.
The philosophical progression is just masterfully designed to corner the reader into a binary decision.
It really is, which leaves you with a deeply provocative question to mull over as you navigate your own goals. The document fiercely claims that thinking zero makes you zero, framing all skepticism as a fatal limitation that will basically ruin your life.
Right.
But when you build a system that requires absolute blind positivity to function, a system that forces you to turn off your critical thinking to achieve its version of victory, does that mandatory positivity create a far more dangerous mental limitation than the doubt it claims to cure.
Oh, that is a fascinating paradox to leave everyone with.
It really is. Thanks for joining this deep dive into the mechanics of mindset, everyone, and catch you on the next one.